7 names, 1 death per week. Pay $100 million or watch them fall. One by one. But the worst part? Sebastian Drake had never even heard of them until now. Sebastian Drake sat in his penthouse office, overlooking the glittering skyline of Manhattan. As the billionaire CEO of Drake Tech, he had spent decades building an empire that revolutionized artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. Ruthless in business and meticulous in strategy, he prided himself on control until today. A black envelope sat ominously on his desk, its wax seal broken. His assistant had brought it in an hour ago, mistaking it for another business proposal. The letter inside, typed in bold, blocky letters, sent a chill down his spine. 7 names, 1 death every week. Pay $100 million or watch them fall. Below the message was a list of names, 7 people he had never heard of. Nathaniel Pierce, Joshua Tate, Linda Holloway, Raymond Cho, Evelyn Moreno, Henry Cole, Vanessa Dunn. He tapped their names into his private database, but nothing came up. No connections, no scandals, no legal disputes. Just ordinary people. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Drake, urgent news," his assistant Chloe said, her voice tight. "Nathaniel Pierce was killed this morning. Car accident." Sebastian's grip tightened around the letter. Coincidence? Or was this real? He quickly opened a browser and searched Nathaniel Pierce's name. The news was everywhere. A fatal crash in Chicago. The police were calling it an accident, but his gut told him otherwise. A second email notification pinged on his laptop. It was from an anonymous sender containing a link. He hesitated, then clicked. A video loaded. The screen was dark at first, then a voice, digitally distorted, spoke. "Sebastian Drake, you don't know me, but I know you. 1 week ago, Nathaniel Pierce was alive. Now, he's dead. 6 remain." The video cut to a surveillance feed of his own building's lobby, taken from a security camera, proof that someone was watching him. "You will pay for what you did, 1 life at a time." Then the screen went black. Sebastian exhaled slowly. Someone was toying with him, someone powerful enough to manipulate traffic accidents and hack into his systems. But what did they mean by pay for what you did? He grabbed his phone and called Riley Cross, the best private investigator in New York. "Meet me at my office, now." 30 minutes later, Riley Cross strode into Drake Tech, her leather jacket and sharp eyes setting her apart from the corporate elite surrounding her. A former FBI cybercrime specialist turned rogue detective, Riley wasn't easily impressed or intimidated. "What the hell did you get yourself into this time, Drake?" she asked, tossing the blackmail letter onto the desk. Sebastian leaned back, rubbing his temples. "I have no idea. I don't even know these people." Riley crossed her arms. "You built an empire worth billions. You've made enemies. Someone thinks you owe them." She pulled out her laptop and typed furiously. Within seconds, she was running background checks on the 6 remaining names. "Found something," she murmured. Joshua Tate, the next name on the list, was spotted arguing with someone outside his apartment 2 nights ago. Neighbors said he looked terrified. Now he's missing. Sebastian clenched his jaw. If Joshua Tate was next, they were already running out of time. Then another email popped up on his screen. Another anonymous message. It was just a single sentence. "Tick-tock, Mr. Drake." Sebastian Drake paced across his office, his mind racing. The blackmail list had already claimed its first victim. And now the second name, Joshua Tate, had vanished without a trace. The clock was ticking, and whoever was behind this was playing a meticulous game. Across the desk, Riley Cross sat with her laptop, scrolling through files at lightning speed. Her short, sharp movements signaled frustration. "This isn't random," she muttered, eyes glued to the screen. "Whoever sent that letter has done their homework. These names aren't connected in the usual ways. No shared family ties, no past lawsuits against you, no corporate entanglements. It's something deeper." Sebastian exhaled sharply. "I've built a company that disrupted entire industries. I've had to make hard decisions, cut deals, scrap projects, fire people. But I don't sabotage lives." Riley arched an eyebrow. "Don't you?" Sebastian frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Riley turned the laptop toward him. A news article from 15 years ago flashed across the screen. The headline read, "Abandoned Tech Hub Leaves Thousands in Ruins." The article detailed a once promising project that Drake Tech had spearheaded, a futuristic tech hub meant to revitalize the economy of a struggling small town called Ashcroft. But due to financial restructuring, the project had been abruptly abandoned. Sebastian's face darkened. Ashcroft. The name stirred something in him. Riley continued, "Your company promised a state-of-the-art business district, a tech revolution, thousands of jobs. Investors poured in. The local government built infrastructure around it. And then, overnight, the entire project was scrapped." Sebastian leaned forward. "I remember Ashcroft. The deal collapsed because of corruption in the local government. They misallocated the funds, stole from the budget. It wasn't my fault." Riley's voice was dry. "You walked away, Sebastian. You had the money, the lawyers, the resources to fight. But instead, you cut your losses. And you left people behind." Sebastian remained silent. Had his decision set this entire thing in motion? Riley tapped the screen again. "Look at the names on this list." Sebastian scanned the names, his stomach twisted. Every single person on the list had once lived in Ashcroft. Joshua Tate had been a software engineer, promised a lucrative career in the tech hub, only to lose everything when the project collapsed. Linda Holloway had invested her family's life savings in a startup space within the proposed tech center. She lost her home. Henry Cole had been a construction foreman on the project. After the cancellation, he had been blacklisted and never worked in his field again. Sebastian's decision hadn't just ended a project, it had destroyed lives. A notification pinged on his screen, another anonymous email. He opened it. A single attachment, a photo. It was Joshua Tate, dead, bound to a chair, a bullet hole in his forehead. A note was duct taped to his chest. 2 down, 5 to go. Sebastian's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about revenge. It was a methodical execution, and he was the one being made to pay. "They don't want my money," he whispered. "They want me to suffer." Sebastian Drake stood frozen, staring at the image of Joshua Tate's lifeless body on his screen. The second victim. 2 down, 5 to go. His mind reeled at the realization that this was far beyond blackmail. It was an orchestrated execution. And, if he didn't find the killer soon, the deaths would continue. Across from him, Riley Cross clenched her jaw, her eyes flickering between anger and cold calculation. "They're not just killing these people, Sebastian. They're making sure you watch." Sebastian turned away, rubbing his temples. "They're not stopping until I'm completely broken. They don't want money. They want justice." He exhaled sharply. "Or, at least, their version of it?" Riley tapped her laptop aggressively. "We need to warn the others on the list. If we can reach them before the killer does..." Before she could finish, Sebastian's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A voice, distorted and mechanical, crackled through the speaker. "You think you can outrun this, Mr. Drake?" Sebastian's grip tightened. "Who are you? What do you want?" A chilling chuckle. "You already know what I want, and you know what you did. But the real question is, who's helping me?" Sebastian's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about? You still don't get it, do you? You have a traitor in your own house, someone close, someone feeding me exactly what I need to find them." The call ended. For the first time since this nightmare began, Sebastian felt true fear. Someone was betraying him. An enemy in the shadows. Sebastian turned to Riley. "We have a leak." She frowned. "Inside Drake Tech?" Sebastian nodded grimly. "That's the only explanation? Someone is feeding them information. Addresses, routines, financial records. They know exactly where to strike and when." Riley pulled up her tablet. "Who has access to your personal and business files?" Sebastian's mind raced. His top executives, his CFO, his assistant, his legal counsel, all had clearance to some degree, but only a few had access to everything. His gut clenched. Marcus Vance, Chief Financial Officer of Drake Tech, loyal for over a decade, the man who had overseen the Ashcroft project's financial collapse. Sebastian grabbed his coat. We need to find Marcus. Now. Sebastian and Riley arrived at Marcus Vance's penthouse just after midnight. The city lights cast long shadows over the empty streets. Sebastian's fingers curled into fists as he knocked hard on the door. No answer. Riley pulled out her gun. Something's wrong. Sebastian tried the handle, unlocked. They stepped inside. The penthouse was dark, eerily silent. Then, a low gurgling sound from the living room. Marcus Vance sat slumped in a chair, his throat slit, blood pooling onto the marble floor. His dead eyes stared forward, as if still processing his betrayal. A message was carved into his chest with a knife. Too late. A single bullet shattered the window behind them. Sniper. Sebastian barely had time to react before Riley tackled him to the ground. More bullets ripped through the penthouse, shattering glass and furniture. They crawled toward the hallway, hearts pounding. Riley grabbed Sebastian's wrist. They knew we were coming. The traitor's already dead, but someone else is pulling the strings. Sebastian's pulse pounded in his ears. The real mastermind was still out there, and they were just getting started. The city skyline blurred past as Sebastian Drake sat in the back of Riley Cross's car, his mind racing. Marcus Vance was dead, slaughtered before he could talk. Someone was always one step ahead, erasing loose ends before Sebastian could tie them together. Too late. The message carved into Marcus's chest haunted him. The mastermind wanted him to suffer, to watch as every possible lead slipped through his fingers. And they were succeeding. Riley sped through the streets, gripping the wheels so tightly her knuckles turned white. Marcus was definitely the leak, but now he's dead, which means there's still someone else left. Sebastian's voice was tight. Someone who wants me broken. A silence settled between them before Riley spoke again. I did some more digging. There's one name we missed. She handed him a file. The name on the cover made Sebastian's blood run cold. Evelyn Grant. The woman who had tried to expose the Ashcroft project before it collapsed. The only whistleblower who had spoken out. And she was murdered 15 years ago. Sebastian turned the page. A photo of a young girl stared back at him. Claire Grant, Evelyn's daughter. Sebastian's stomach twisted. Could she be the one behind all this? A face from the past. They arrived at a small apartment complex on the outskirts of the city. According to Riley's records, Claire Grant had been living off the grid for years. No digital footprint, no bank records. It was as if she had vanished. Until now. Sebastian's chest tightened as they approached her door. He raised a fist to knock, but the door was already open. Riley pulled her gun, motioning for Sebastian to stay behind. They stepped inside cautiously. The apartment was dark, abandoned in a hurry. Papers were scattered across the table. Photos of the Ashcroft disaster, news articles, Sebastian's business records, and in the center, an envelope addressed to him. Sebastian picked it up and unfolded the note inside. I wanted to make you feel helpless, just like we felt, but we're not finished yet. The last name on the list is yours. A timer on the table beeped. 0030, 0029, 0028. Riley's eyes widened. It's a bomb! Run! They bolted for the door as the apartment erupted into flames behind them. The blast sent Sebastian sprawling onto the pavement, ears ringing, heat licking at his back. Coughing, he turned to Riley. She's not just coming for me. She wants to destroy everything I built. They had one last chance to stop her, and only hours left before she struck again. Sebastian Drake sat on the hood of Riley's car, watching the flames consume what was left of Claire Grant's apartment. The explosion had destroyed any remaining evidence, any chance of tracking her before she made her final move. His name was next on the list. Sebastian had spent his life making decisions based on logic, on cold calculations. Now, for the first time, he felt completely powerless. Riley Cross paced beside him, her mind working furiously. We need to stop thinking like the hunted. We need to start thinking like her. Sebastian turned to her, his jaw clenched. She's always been ahead of us. She's always known our moves before we make them. How do we beat someone who's been planning this for 15 years? Riley exhaled sharply. She's not after money. She's after closure. She wants to erase you. Sebastian's mind raced. Claire hadn't just wanted revenge. She wanted him to understand what it felt like to have everything ripped away. Which meant she wasn't finished. She wouldn't just kill him. She'd make sure his entire empire burned first, and there was only one place she could do that. Drake Tech. The final confrontation. They sped toward Drake Tech headquarters, the towering skyscraper that housed his billion-dollar empire. If Claire wanted to make a final statement, she would strike at the heart of his legacy. As they approached the building, Sebastian's worst fears were confirmed. The entire security system was down. The guards at the front, unconscious. The power, cut. She was already inside. Sebastian and Riley rushed into the building, guns drawn. The emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows down the long, empty hallways. Then, over the intercom, a voice, calm, controlled, and filled with venom. "Hello, Sebastian. Welcome to your reckoning." Sebastian's pulse pounded in his ears. "Claire, listen to me." She cut him off. "Did you ever think about the lives you destroyed when you walked away from Ashcroft?" Sebastian swallowed hard. "I didn't know. You didn't care." Her voice hardened. "You took everything from my mother, and now I'm taking everything from you." A countdown appeared on the screens around the building. 5 o'clock, 4:59, 4:58. Riley's eyes darted to Sebastian. "It's a remote detonation. She's going to bring the whole building down." Face to face. They followed the sound of Claire's voice to the executive floor. The moment they stepped inside, a bullet grazed past Sebastian's head, slamming into the wall. Claire stood across the room, gun in hand, her face a mask of fury and grief. Sebastian raised his hand slowly. "Claire, listen, I can't undo the past, but I can make this right." Claire's hand trembled, but her eyes remained cold. "The only way to make it right is for you to lose everything, just like we did." Riley, gun trained on Claire, spoke carefully. "If you do this, you become exactly what you hate. Your mother wouldn't want this." For the first time, Claire hesitated. Sebastian took a step forward. "You've made me feel everything you wanted: fear, helplessness, regret. But this isn't justice. It's just more destruction." The countdown hit 00:30. Claire's grip tightened on the detonator. Sebastian made his move. With lightning speed, he lunged forward, knocking the device from her hand. It skidded across the floor as Riley kicked it away. Claire screamed in rage, swinging the gun toward him. A single shot rang out. Claire staggered back, clutching her side, eyes wide with shock. Riley had shot her. Sebastian caught Claire as she collapsed, her breathing ragged. Blood stained her shirt, but the wound wasn't fatal. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "It wasn't supposed to end like this." Sebastian's voice was quiet. "It never had to be like this." The aftermath. The police arrived within minutes, securing the building. Claire was taken into custody, her mission of revenge ultimately undone. Sebastian stood outside Drake Tech, watching as the sun began to rise. His company was intact. His life had been spared, but something inside him had irrevocably changed. He had spent years building walls, making ruthless choices, believing that success justified everything. Claire had forced him to see the other side of that equation, the human cost of his decisions. Riley approached, arms crossed. "So, what now?" Sebastian looked out at the city. "Now, I fix what I broke." A week later, he launched a $1 billion fund to rebuild the communities affected by Ashcroft, to compensate those whose lives had been ruined. But some wounds could never be healed. Claire Grant had set out to destroy him. In a way, she had succeeded, because the man he was before was already dead. Final message. Power isn't measured by what you build. It's measured by what you destroy. And sometimes, the true cost of success isn't counted in dollars, but in lives left shattered behind you.